So let me go over to parts of the article, and then we can go from there. And what this article says is we all harbor secrets. Some are big and bad, some are small and trivial. Researchers have parsed which truth to tell and which not to. And so let's see here, secrecy. So how they define secrecy is intentionally withholding personal
Oh,
information from one or more persons. Keeping secrets can often be harmful in the long run, both physically and psychologically. However, according to psychologists Michael Slepian and Alex Koch, it's not the withholding that hurts us. Instead, it's the ruminating that harms. So do we start there?
Well, we had this conversation off air, and I just want to go back to it, which is I think when they're saying it's the rumination that harms, they're limiting the harm of the secret to the individual. And what we know is that, when it comes to addiction, there are some secrets, and I'll qualify it that way. There are some secrets that, whether the addict is ruminating on them or not, or anybody is ruminating on them or not, the lack of rumination isn't going to create the problem. It's when that secret comes out, and we've all heard all kinds of crazy ways that secrets come out. When it comes out, that's when it becomes problematic.
yeah. I mean, I think someone who is in active addiction and let's say contracts an STI, and then they don't tell their partner about it, and then the discovery comes when the partner gets a medical exam or something, and they find out they have a STI. I mean, that's the addict may not have distress about that. They may have not have ruminated about it, but of course that's going to be incredibly damaging to the partner, that discovery.
And on the other side of that equation, most addicts and many partners that come into recovery keep the addiction a secret.
From some people in life, right.
They're not, oftentimes, sometimes addicts want to tell everybody, and sometimes they want to tell nobody, but it's often very appropriate for them to sort of like be limited on who are they sharing their addiction and that they're in recovery with, because there is still a stigma, unfortunately, around sex addiction. Some partners have told a ton of people about what's going on, and some partners want to tell no one because they're afraid of the response. And so they're holding that secret about the addiction and the impact of what's going on. And in some ways, that's a very appropriate thing to do as they're managing sort of the boundaries. They're managing who knows. Sometimes those secrets become problematic because, I sometimes think if you put that out on the table, then you can deal with what's going on. But that's probably not a day one thing. So there are times that secrets are, again, I see it, sometimes what we're really talking about is boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I sometimes talk about honesty, and in 12-step, we talk about rigorous honesty. And I will say there's a difference between rigorous honesty and brutal honesty.
Yeah.
And so I think there's that same thing with secrets. There are secrets that you're keeping and they're brutal if you keep them. And there are secrets that you're keeping that it's like, well, this is more of a boundary.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think we're getting to it, right? Like a secret, I think of a secret is potentially being rooted in shame. And a boundary is thinking through all the ramifications of why am I withholding this information? And so am I withholding this information? And I think it gets very tricky. And Tim, you nailed it at the beginning. Like this might be very, very complicated. Especially people that have distorted thinking, right, are in distorted thinking, saying, well, I'm not telling them this information because it's going to hurt them. So it's going to be a boundary of mine, and I'm just going to do this behavior because it's just for me and I don't want to hurt the other person. And so, it's not a secret, really, it's a boundary. So we have to be really, really careful of, if we are withholding information, why are we doing that?
One of the things that I will often talk about with the addicts is you are not a good person to decide if this is a boundary or a secret.